Breaking news. Bai Lu's mother confronts Zhang Linghe after the crash. Something surreal unfolded on an evening under the glow of stark streetlights. Tires screeched. Hearts raced. Lives teetered on the edge of ruin and truth. This is the moment when a mother's courage shattered the fragile silence. Horizon of chaos. The evening began like any other. Bai Lu was in the passenger seat, a soft smile on her lips, en route to a rehearsal she'd barely remember. The engine's hum droned a promise of mundane routine. Then, twist of fate. Zhang Linghe, behind the wheel, glanced away, drawn by an intrusive thought, an errant text. The car swerved across the center line, colliding with an oncoming truck that loomed like a spectral sentinel. The world tilted. 2. Reverberations of the crash. Fragments of glass rained. Metal shrieked. Time fragmented. Moments stretched into eons. A shattered windshield told stories of sudden violence. A crumpled door whispered of innocence lost. And at the center lay stillness more deafening than any crash. Rescuers arrived. They pried open the wreckage. Her eyes fluttered open. Her vision swam. Everything hurt more than she could name. The smell of burnt rubber. The taste of fear. In that split second, the collision carved a permanent scar into her memory. 3. Hospital walls, hidden battles. Hospital corridors are long, invisible trenches of tension. Sterile smell clung to every surface. White coats moved like silent ghosts. The hum of machines pitched a lullaby of survival. Bai Lu lay in a bed, tubes in her arms, monitors recording rhythms that determined tomorrow's promise. Her world had narrowed to the ceiling overhead and a future she couldn't see. Zhang Linghe visited, his face a canvas of guilt and pain. He murmured apologies that echoed like fragile candles in a cathedral of regret. He promised care, devotion, lifetime commitments painted in shaky words. At first, he and his family circled her bedside. Their presence offered warmth, a lifeline of hope. Their voices soothed. But those visits grew sporadic. Calls went unanswered. Doors remained closed. Promises faded like morning mist. Alone, she stared at ceiling lights that glowed but offered no comfort. 4. A mother's return. Bai Lu's mother arrived from a distant village carrying the weight of worlds. The journey had been long, but her resolve sharper than any blade. She stood at the hospital door and exhaled a storm before pushing inside. Her eyes found her daughter, frail but resolute. Strength lived within that faint silhouette. She squeezed Bai Lu's hand. Words were whispered. Hope reawakened. But time was passing. Medical bills soared. Treatments stacked higher than her meager savings. She could not wait for justice. She could not afford silence. The confrontation. And so came the day. Unannounced. A door burst open. A mother entered the sterile room. Her face carried lines of both tenderness and fire. Zhang Linghe hadn't expected her. He froze. Words fled him. He thought guilt could be hidden behind apologies. He thought absence might be forgiven with empty vows. But he hadn't counted on a mother driven by love. She advanced. Each step echoed like a drumbeat ringing pure conviction. Her gaze burned into him. She spoke, voice low but relentless. She demanded what was right. Care. Support. Accountability. She unspooled every unkept promise, every forgotten visit, every broken word. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice didn't waver. Anger and grief entwined into steel. The sterile room felt smaller. Gravity shifted. Truth landed like hailstones. Zhang Linghe stammered. He tried excuses. Words fell short. Regret crowded the air. But she pushed on, exposing the heart of abandonment. She would not be brushed aside. 6. Scenes that shatter. In that moment, ordinary objects gained extraordinary gravity. A chair trembled as he sank into it. A visiting nurse paused outside, breath caught. A single drip from N4 provided rhythm to the confrontation. And outside, dusk painted the world violet. Streetlights flickered to life. Cars passed in silence. None imagine the storm within that hospital room. 7. Echoes beyond the walls. Once confrontation ended, life didn't reset. It shifted. Bai Lu's mother held Zhang Linghe accountable. He could not slip away. Funds were demanded, treatments insisted upon. He was forced to confront consequences he'd once eluded. Social media erupted. Fans and followers debated the drama that had spilled from fiction into real life. Opinions divided, but most rallied behind a mother defending her child, a soul crying for fair treatment. 8. Resilience rising. Bai Lu faced recovery with renewed vigor. Rehabilitation's first steps were painful, but meditated by unwavering determination. Her mother became her anchor. Together, they navigated uncertainties. Each visit from her mother brought hope. Each therapy session built a fragile bridge back to health and independence. Zhang Linghe appeared again, this time with tangible support. His visits resumed, genuine this time, and coupled with financial contributions for her care. It was imperfect redemption, but it was acknowledgement. 9. What it all means. This was not merely a car crash. It became an awakening, a reminder that responsibility matters, that proximity does not equal devotion. It revealed that courage can come hidden in plain sight from a woman who refused to stand idle. It echoed across communities. It compelled others to ask, who stands for those abandoned? Who confronts injustices when silence fails? X. Final reflections. Some stories leave us shaken. Some leave us changed. This one carved deep grooves. A mother's resolve stood against absence. A crash that fractured lives became the spark for justice. And now, with rehabilitation underway, evidence of confrontation still fresh, Bai Lu stands at a threshold. Her path forward shines with possibility, lit by love that refused to dim. Horizon of chaos. The night everything changed. Extended scene. The city pulsed with neon life as dusk folded into night. It was one of those evenings when the air felt strangely electric, as if the universe was holding its breath. Cars moved like glowing insects across the concrete veins of the metropolis, and high above them, the stars blinked coldly, unaware of the storm that was about to break on Earth. Inside a sleek black car gliding through the boulevard, Bai Lu rested her head against the window. Her eyes flicked between the shimmering lights and the reflection of her own face, a little tired, a little lost in thought, but still smiling. She wore a pale cream jacket, slightly oversized, which wrapped around her like a whisper of comfort. The city outside moved in streaks of color, gold, green, red, like melted crayons running across the canvas of glass. Zhang Linghe sat behind the wheel, confident, calm. One hand rested on the steering wheel, the other hovered over the screen of his phone mounted just above the dashboard. Music pulsed softly through the speakers, a mellow beat, rhythmic and relaxing. He laughed at something she said, a warm, low chuckle that made her glance over, just briefly. Then everything shifted. It began with a vibration. His phone lit up. A message. A name on the screen that caught his attention for half a second too long. That half a second changed everything. The turn. The car drifted. Just slightly. But enough. From the opposite lane, headlights appeared. Not ordinary headlights. These were monstrous, blazing, almost supernatural in their intensity. A truck. Massive. Silent at first, then screaming with the sound of brakes skidding against time. Bai Lu turned, too late to make sense of what she saw. Zhang Linghe's foot slammed the brake. His hand jerked the wheel. But the road had already made its decision. The tires screamed. The world twisted. And then impact. A collision of realities. The truck hit the front left side with the force of 1,000 regrets. The sound was something beyond human comprehension, a thunderous crunch followed by the groan of bending metal. The windshield fractured instantly, veins of damage racing across the glass like ice breaking under pressure. Everything inside the car lifted. The dashboard cracked open. Her phone flew forward. A thermos in the cup holder rocketed into the air and spun like a silver coin flipping through the void. Her head snapped sideways. His arm shot out, not to the wheel, but toward her, a useless reflex, too late to protect. The noise was not just loud, it was total. A roaring hurricane sealed inside a capsule of steel. And then silence. The kind of silence that feels like the world has paused, waiting to see who survives. Wreckage. The car slid a few more meters, tires still scraping against the pavement before it finally rested against a guardrail. Smoke poured from the hood in delicate tendrils, rising like spirits released from a bottle. Inside the car, the lights flickered. Sparks danced briefly near the dashboard. Zhang Linghe's hands trembled on the wheel. His chest heaved with panicked breaths. He turned to her. His voice failed. Bai Lu's eyes were half open, glassy. A small stream of crimson trailed down her forehead. Her hair had come loose, framing her face in a cascade of dark strands. Her lips moved but made no sound. Her fingers twitched, then stopped. Sirens screamed in the distance, the only sign that the world hadn't ended. But in that car, it felt like it had. Bystanders and chaos. From a nearby cafe, people had run out. One man was already dialing emergency services, his voice high-pitched and shaky. Another woman stood rooted on the sidewalk, hands over her mouth, watching in horror as a young couple's future hung by a thread of fate. Traffic piled up in long, silent lines. Headlights cut through the haze, casting eerie shadows on the pavement. Horns blared. Confusion bloomed. A young delivery driver on a motorbike dropped his helmet and rushed forward, eyes wide. He approached the wreckage with hesitant steps, unsure of what he'd find. He reached the passenger side. Glass crunched beneath his feet. The window had shattered completely. He could see her face through the shards, beautiful, serene, too still. He reached through the open gap and called out to her. Her fingers moved again. He exhaled sharply. "She's alive," he whispered, turning his head just as the flashing lights of an ambulance broke through the darkness. Zhang Linghe's collapse. Meanwhile, Zhang Linghe had opened his door. He stumbled out, falling to one knee, barely able to catch his breath. His hand trembled as he pulled out his phone, but he couldn't make the call. He couldn't think. He couldn't even stand straight. His mind reeled, images crashing over him, her smile from minutes ago, the text that distracted him, the sound of metal colliding with reality. Someone helped him sit on the curb. A paramedic. A firm voice grounding. "She's still breathing. We've got her. We're moving fast." He looked up, dazed. "Is she going to be okay?" The paramedic didn't answer. The ride to the hospital. They moved her carefully. Neck brace. Stretcher. Oxygen mask. She was wheeled into the back of the ambulance, lights spinning like an emergency carousel. Zhang Linghe tried to follow, but was stopped. He argued. He pleaded. But they told him to stay behind. He was still in shock. He could barely walk. The doors slammed shut. The siren wailed. And she was gone. Stillness after the storm. The crash site was bathed in light now. Police documented the scene. Cones were set. Traffic redirected. The truck driver sat on the curb, head in his hands, shaking, mumbling. He'd had no time to stop. Zhang Linghe sat alone. His hands stained with dust. His heart hollow. In one moment, everything had changed. He didn't know how badly she was hurt. He didn't know if the world would ever go back to the way it had been. But one truth burned brighter than all the lights flashing around him. He was the reason she was in that ambulance. So once again, from all of us at K-Romance Central, thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in love again, or if you just want to stay updated on every twist in this breathtaking saga, backhand index pointing right, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification button for more juicy K-drama updates. Because this is K-Romance Central, and here, we don't just report stories. We bring the romance to life. Sparkling Heart.